Thank you. I think it's clear if everyone had any is working. Yeah. Yes, working. Okay. If everyone had any doubts that Europe is democratic, this was the proof. As a humble technocrat, I will try now to bring convergence in relation to the internet. So I'm not going specifically in any regulatory issues, but should there be any discussion, I'm also happy to answer those questions. So my objective was today to try to see the trend of convergence in relation to the internet. And so when we look at what the convergence actually means, then it started, I would say, in the early 80s with the introduction of the digital music CD that we all have today, and coming from the record. And then it went on. Some of you may still remember the videotapes, VHS. There's a new generation that have never used a VHS in their life. Then, do you still remember the Walkman? Today our generation, our young generation, uses MP3 players. And so on and so forth. So digitization, everything is digital. That is the foundation of convergence. Otherwise it wouldn't happen. What you then see is that the end devices become also multi-service devices or multimedia devices. When you use today a mobile phone, and sometimes you don't use it for making a phone call at all. You make it to make a photo, to register anything you see, and it's to access the internet and what have you. You ought to organize your life. And in between, yes, you use it occasionally for making a mobile phone. Or take, for instance, game consoles. Game consoles are no longer standalone devices. They are access to the internet. They are DVD recorders. So the end device is becoming multimedia. And this is last but not least, and this is the process we are just right in. Everything is becoming IP, Internet Protocol. This is the last, if you like, the last step towards full convergence. All network protocols, all network technologies are somehow, in some sense, moving to IP, which is a dramatic effect. And that means, from that point of view, the service no longer cares on which device, from where, how, and on what networks it does. And it offers a lot of those combinations that you have all heard about. And in the past, we were used to so-called vertical chains. And one of those vertical chains, for instance, the television chain, one network, one service, one content, and one terminal equipment, the TV set. And that is, of course, now totally changing, and it's going in all directions. But what is not changing is that business people and also, let's say, politicians try to control it, because the desire to control it, either for political motives or for profit motives, of course, remains the same. And that is actually the regulatory questions behind it. We are changing the game, or technology is changing the game, and what does it mean in terms of business, and what does it mean in terms of policy? That is the underlying questions. Now, look very quickly at the television example further on, how the television value chain now looks today. So you have 4 or 5 different networks you can use in order to transmit something that we called in the past television. The service is no longer this kind of one downstream of a program, in what sense soever. It is now interactive, it is gaming, it is shopping, and it is mobile, it is video on demand, it's independent of the time. And think what it means, for instance, for a regulatory issue, where in the past, in order to protect minors, you put a kind of a time limit to it. So you would say certain content should only be broadcast later than 22 in the evening. If you have an audience, if you have technologies where time doesn't play any longer a role, because the TV program is being, let's say, viewed and consumed at any time, then this particular regulatory issue will lose its impact, let's put it that way. That's what I meant with the implications of the changing in the technologies. And you can go on and, for instance, television now you watch on the PC, you watch on a mobile phone, and so on and so forth. Now, it's interesting when you listen to debates, and today it was similar, but because also of some of the keynote speeches are slightly different. But generally, the focus is on media. When you have discussion on broadband, on convergence, then you see always the focus is on the media. It is new business models, new channels, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, how can we bring high-level services to the consumer? There are a number of challenges, and one of them is, how do you control digital content? Digital content is as difficult to control as pushing water up the hill. And in particular, when the user has now been used to the freedom of the internet. So it becomes more and more difficult to control the value chain because of that, because the user expects the freedom of the internet. And already even a cool device, let's say like the Google iPhone, some people feel a little bit embarrassed because it is so much controlled. And therefore, people would like to have more. Now it's been, let's say, solved by a huge number of applications that you can download. But the massive value actually is in the use of the internet. So the value of convergence is not so much in new media programming, in new media value chain, as important as it may be, but it's actually in the usage of the internet. And that is where convergence really unfolds. And here, the key is to restructure what we have all learned about. Take the education as an example. It is not enough to give laptops to school. What do kids do with the laptop then? And probably teach the teacher how to use the laptop. So what we actually need to do is to restructure our processes, our institutions, our organizations. And that's with a generation in transit. And so this is, to my mind, for the next 10 years, a key task in the area of convergence. And the reason why the internet is so powerful is very simple, but very often overlooked. Because remember when people talk about the internet, they talk about the internet as if it were a network. Many people say it's a global network. Some people say it more correctly and say it's a network of networks. Whilst everything is correct, it's not wrong. It's misleading. Because the internet is a method. It's a method to connect heterogeneous networks and to have access to information in those networks. It is a method rather than a network. And therefore, controlling the internet, redesigning it, whatever you like, is not possible because it is a method. It is not per se, strictly speaking, a network. And it's ready to use. If you want to establish a high-level service and charge for it, you can do this. But you will only have a few customers. And you can expand the business if you're successful, for instance, with paid digital TV and you put some premium content like football to it. Yes. But the internet offers something else. It offers the platform to reach everyone in the world. It's ready to use. It has limitations. And those limitations will need to be addressed. And this is the question of the future of the internet. I wouldn't call it the future internet. That would be misleading again, because nobody knows what the future internet looks like. But what is the future of this platform? And today, we know what we need in the short term. We need IP version 6 urgently. If you have not noticed, we are running out of IP version 4 addresses. Second, we need broadband access, the main subject of today. Yes, we need spectrum, we need the regulatory framework that incentivize investment and so on and so forth. And we need investment and innovation in the core networks from the operators, without stifling the openness of the Internet. We are talking about the network neutrality debate here. This is what we need today. In the future is open. We may have a clean slate approach of something totally new in order to overcome certain limitation of the Internet method of today. We may have something like multiple Internets, so existing like parallel universes. Or we may have the expansion of the current Internet into a kind of web of life, getting everything connected on the current IP methodology. Nobody knows where the answer is, because there is no design goal. You can change it, you can influence it, you can slow it down, you can moan about it, you can do everything. But it's an evolutionary process we are in, which you cannot stop. Thank you.